Wanderers, Season 9 is here, and we are going to be talking leveling guides. We're on the Barbarian, and this is going to be Frenzy. Frenzy is a dual wield setup with incredibly high attack speed, and you will absolutely shred through some monsters. We're going to go over how the planner is broken down. We have it set up your 1 to 25, your 26 to 40, and then your 41 to 60. Now, each of them will have a progression as how you're going to move through the levels. So as you go through, make sure that you follow along, because some of them will have aspects that can drop during dungeons, and some of them will have aspects that you're going to have to find. Now, the first couple levels of this and the first couple variants will only have aspects that you can find in dungeons. So it's very easy to get. You're going to go to the dungeon, complete it, and then you'll have that aspect to put on. It's going to make it a lot easier to get a leveling build set up, and you don't have to worry about that frustration of trying to find any of those aspects that are really hard to find sometimes. This will carry you all the way through to level 60. But first, we're going to take a look at the skill tree. Now, if we open up the skill tree and you click on this little button right here, this is going to maximize your skill tree for you. Then you come up here and you go into the leveling path. If you follow along with this leveling path here on the side, this is going to be the optimal way to build this build. If you just go through and you follow this just to a T, you're going to miss out on some really important abilities that you're going to get during the leveling process. So make sure that you follow along with this so that you can get the best out of your build. Starting at the top here, we're going to be maxing out Frenzy. We're going to go all the way down through Combat Frenzy. This is going to be the safe route to take. If you feel tanky enough, then you can go into Battle Frenzy. That's going to give you more attack speed. This will give you some damage reduction. We're going to take Imposing Presence for some maximum life, and then Martial Vigor for more damage reduction. Rallying Cry is going to be our source of movement speed, Unstoppable, and then a bit of your Fortify. We don't need the Fury generation, so we don't have to take Tactical Rallying Cry. It's a basic skill build, which is beautiful. All you have to worry about is just killing some monsters. Belligerence here is going to give us some additional damage when we use a basic skill, which is going to be our main source of damage anyway. Challenging Shout will give us some damage reduction and some extra life. Warcry, this is going to give you some additional damage while you're berserking. Now, we're going to gain berserking from Warcry. We're also going to gain berserking from Leap. Because we're going to be taking aggressive resistance and then down into battle fervor, this is going to make it so that every time that we cast a brawling skill that deals damage to an enemy, it's going to give us berserking. Leap is going to deal damage to an enemy. It's a brawling skill. We're going to gain berserking from that as well. So a couple different ways to gain that berserking buff. Now, berserking gives us movement speed and additional attack. So in the early stages of leveling, having any source of movement speed is incredibly important. We're going to be taking Booming Voice for some additional uptime on our shouts. Then we're going to be going into Raid Leader. This is a passive heal. I love passive heals, especially during the leveling process. Then we're going to be going into Pit Fighter. This is some damage reduction and some damage versus close enemies. Slaying Strikes right here is going to give us 15% increased damage against injured and healthy enemies. Injured is anything below 35% life, and healthy is anything above 80% life. No Mercy is going to give us some critical strike chance. 1 point in a Thick Skin so that we can lock counteroffensive. As we gain our Fortify from Rallying Cry, we're going to deal additional damage as long as our Fortify is above 50% of our maximum life. 1 point into Defensive Stance, a little bit of damage reduction, and some more passive heals. We're going to be taking Call of the Ancients for this specific build because it's going to give us some extra damage, but more importantly, it's going to give us some attack speed. Now, we want to be attacking as fast as we can with this build. It's built around very fast attack because we're going to be running a dual wield setup. That's also why we're going to be running Duelist here. Duelist is going to give us additional attack speed as we use a dual wield setup. We're going to want to be running a one-handed mace and a one-handed sword for the build, and that will allow us to take advantage of Wallop. If you don't find it in the early stages of leveling, that's perfectly fine. You don't take Wallop until later on when you can kind of pick and choose what you're going to be putting on. Unconstrained is going to be the choice for a key passive. This is going to give us some extra damage to our berserking bonus. And if we're below 65% of our life, we're always going to be berserk, and we're going to gain 30% physical damage reduction. So that's going to be your skills. Now we're going to look at the way that all of your assigned skills are set up, and then how we're going to be breaking down all of your aspects. So starting in your 1 to 25 here, it's going to be exactly the same as your 26 to 40. So this is going to be found in all of your dungeon aspects. If you scroll down to the bottom of the planner down here, don't miss this because there's a whole lot of really great information in there. There's also going to be this aspect section right here at the bottom. This is going to be a list of all of the dungeon aspects that you can find. Now, how do you find them? If we were to go into the game, you're going to open up your Codex of Power. Inside of that Codex of Power, now I found all of my Barbarian aspects, so I'm going to unfilter this. You can actually type in the dungeon that you want. You can search for any of those dungeons that are going to be listed inside of the section of the planner. Now, when you find the one that you're looking for, this one says Renegade's Retreat. Right here, it's going to say Pin to Map. When we click that button and then we go to our map, it actually is going to put a pin on the dungeon that we need so we know exactly where to go to get it. We don't have to search for Google. We don't have to zoom in on maps. You don't have to go to every single dungeon and mouse over. You can simply use your Codex of Power to find the one that you're going to be looking for. Now, all of these tips are going to be in the ultimate leveling guide that's going to be linked at the very end of this video. It'll also be in the description. So make sure you check out the overall leveling guide that's going to give you a step-by-step process of how to break down your leveling in Season 9 and what's going to be the fastest and the best route to go. So looking at the aspects, we're going to be running Disobedience. This is going to give us a bunch of extra armor when we start to attack. Aspect of Might, every time that we use Frenzy, we gain damage reduction. Death's Wish aspect. Now, this is going to be a fun little play until you find something that is going to be replaceable for this. You're going to be gaining Thorns whenever you're berserking. We're going to combine that with Needle Flare. It's going to give us a chance to deal our Thorns damage to all of the enemies around us. It's just for the leveling process until you find aspects that you can replace these with. We're going to be running Numbing Wrath. This is going to give us some additional Fortify whenever we're at maximum fury and we generate more. Ghostwalker aspect, whenever we're unstoppable, we're going to gain movement speed. Edge Masters, whenever we cast skills based on how much fury we have, we're going to gain additional damage. Intercom, even though we may end up moving quite a bit with this build because it's going to kill things very, very quickly, we will always get the base amount of increase to damage, and then if we do stand still, we get an additional bonus. Ancestral Echoes. This is going to help buff our summoning damage from your ultimate skill. It's going to be giving damage to Call of the Ancients. Call of the Ancients during the leveling process is incredibly strong. Even with all of the changes that to heavy hitter that were made in the leveling process, this is going to be a very strong option for you. Bear Clan Berserkers aspect. Killing an enemy while berserking has a chance to grant up to 40% increased cooldown reduction to your brawling skills for 2 seconds. It's a really great way to get your Warcry and to get your leap off of cooldown. Rapid aspect is going to give you additional basic attack speed whenever we're using basic skills. And then Bolkathos, we're going to have earthquakes spawning from your runes. If you don't have runes, you can replace this with anything else that's going to fit into the aspect slot here. But this will give us some additional damage reduction while we're standing inside an earthquake and for a couple seconds after we leave it. Now, looking at your 41 to 60, this is where you're going to actually start to put your build together. You should start seeing more legendaries drop, so you should be getting all of the aspects that you're going to need that you will not come from dungeons. We're going to leave Disobedience exactly where it is. Same thing with Might. We're going to be putting Berserk Ripping on. This is just an extra source of damage here, so we can start doing a little bit extra. Numbing Wrath is going to stay the same. We're going to leave Ghostwalker. Edge Master is also going to stay the same. Now, where we're really going to start changing things up, we're moving Ancestral Charge all the way down to your one-handed weapon. And then we're going to be putting Moonrise. Moonrise is going to give your basic skills a really big buff. You get a huge amount of damage increase as well as some attack speed. So this is going to be a really great option to put on your two-handed weapon. We're going to be putting Elements on our ring. We're going to leave Rapid exactly where it is, and then we're going to add Adaptability to your amulet. Adaptability is going to be a really big source of damage, especially in the end game. It's going to be giving you some additional damage during the leveling process, so we're going to leave it here. This gives basic skills increased damage for each point of your primary resource that you have. Now, you have a basic skill build. We're always going to have primary resources, so it's going to be a really great option to give you a bunch of extra damage. Now, looking at the rune setup, we're going to be running Kurke. This is going to be in every single one of my leveling guides. It is incredibly strong during the leveling process. Every time that you cast 5 abilities, you're going to use your offerings. That's going to summon wolves for you. The benefit of having those wolves, they apply vulnerable damage. They also stun and freeze enemies. It's really, really great. They're also very strong. We're going to be running Yak's Tech. Now, you can always replace this if you do end up finding things, but we're only using blue runes for the leveling guides. Every time you drink a healing potion, we're going to be dropping earthquakes. The earthquakes are just a bunch of extra damage, and during leveling, they're very strong still, even with all of the nerfs. The changes to earthquakes will only affect the endgame. During leveling, earthquakes are still very, very strong. We're going to be looking at our Herodric spell next. We're going to be running Disintegrate. You can always mess around with this. They're incredibly customizable, so pick the one that is going to work best for you. We're going to be running Smoldering Embers. This is going to do some burning damage and then leave burning grounds underneath the enemy. And then this ability right here is amazing. This is going to give you 70% increased movement speed during the effect duration of your catalyst and for 5 seconds after it ends. Now, if you look at how much of a cooldown we have in Disintegrate, it is only 5.3 seconds according to this right here. So we should have that 70% movement speed up almost all the time. What a relief, because the leveling process can be very, very slow in the very beginning. Tranquil Stone here is going to give us more Unstoppable. That's incredibly important for your leveling process. And then when we go to Invigorating Helix, this is going to also heal us and fortify us. For the gems, you're going to just run whatever you end up finding and that you can craft. Supposedly, we're going to be getting a higher drop rate on your jewels and your crafting materials inside of this Season 9. So that'll be a really welcomed change. Make sure you look at the rotation here, check out the defensive abilities, and then your offensive abilities. We're going to have a lot of stuff inside of the planner here. So looking at the mercenaries now, this is going to be a very offensive option. If you do want to run a defensive option, swap Subo for Rahir. Rahir is always going to be a very tanky option for you, but Subo has a map hack, which I absolutely love. So we're going to be running all the way down through. This is going to be some movement speed, down through your critical strike damage bonus at the very bottom, and then for your opportunity it's going to be Variana. Now make sure that you swap around all of your mercenaries in the very beginning because you want to level them up. They give you a really great option to barter, but they have to be leveled up in order to unlock all of the options for bartering. That will come into play later on when you hit your end game process. The final thing that we're going to talk about is tempering. Now if you come back over to your gear here, if you look at your gear stats, we have a full lineup of your gear right here. This is a complete breakdown of everything. When we get into the lower levels here, you're going to notice that there's really just not much here. There's just going to be a couple of your tempers. That's done on purpose. As you level up, tempering is actually incredibly cheap, so make sure that you don't skip out on tempering. These right here, for the first 10 to 20 levels, are going to be probably the strongest damage that you do. For the next 20 levels, they're going to be right alongside all of the damage that you're going to be doing, and eventually they're going to fall off, and that's when you're going to start replacing them with the actual tempers that you're going to find right here. Now, if you do find that your tempers are really not holding up and you're doing a massive amount of damage, you can replace those with things like critical strike damage or ranks to belligerence. There's going to be a lot of different things that you're going to be able to do as you get your tempering manuals. But in the very beginning of the game, those chance to deal elemental damage or physical damage is incredibly strong and is going to be a lot more damage that you can actually do. So temper early and temper strong. That's all I got for Frenzy. Hopefully you found this video helpful. If you did, make sure you share it with your friends. Thank you everybody for watching. I'm live every night. I'd love it if you stopped by, said hi, theory crafted with me. Catch you on the clip side.